Greetings, friends. Welcome back to Scripture and Prophecy. I'm Sean, your host. It's Friday, April 20th, 2018. And thank you for joining me this morning. Today's podcast is probably going to be one of those fly-by-your-pants style podcasts. There's a few headlines I want to cover, but I didn't really know what I should be talking about today. But I feel as though the Lord would have me to go through James chapter 1, 27 verses with you, and just talk about the importance of faith, the importance of diligently pursuing the Lord, not taking your relationship lightly, as so many of us do, and diligently pursuing that, and just, man, if I could just get across the importance of how important your actual faith with action is. And so we'll take a look at James chapter 1 and just see what happens. But before I get into that, what I would like to do is just go over a couple of headlines. I'm not going to beat this dead horse a lot. I don't know. I've talked about this subject so much, and maybe I'll do another show on it sometime soon. But Daniel says, whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And I think that's just a loaded scripture right there as I look at these last days. But this idea of mingling with the seed of man, I think there's many layers to this. We can talk about, we've talked a lot about the robot thing going on right now, and artificial intelligence. But the big thing that I want to talk about is, or at least I just want to read a few headlines just so you understand that this is moving forward in a way you can't imagine. What I'm referring to is the genetic modification of human beings. Jesus said in Matthew 24, verse 37, "But as the day of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be." And if you've done any extensive study on what was going on in the times of Noah, and if you don't have a good understanding of this information, go to my YouTube channel and search Noah, search Enoch, and you will find endless information about this, about the giants in those days. I did a whole series on the days of Lot, the days of Noah, and not that long ago, that I continue to add to occasionally. Lots of information in the archives of the podcast if you're new to the show and you want to understand about the genetic modification that was taking place, the splicing of genetics with animals, the giants, the Nephilim that were on the earth in those days, the fallen angels, all of that. And I say all that to bring it full circle and say, Jesus said it was going to be like that time in the end, right? And so let me just read a couple of headlines to you. Realistic robot that is indistinguishable from humans rolls out. A malfunctioning robot named Fred was terrified drinkers in a London pub by smashing a pint glass while talking about robot invasion. Now, whether it was programmed to do that or what, that's not the point. The point is we've got robots on the scene now that are indistinguishable from human beings. The artificial intelligence, folks, there's already a hive mind. The artificial intelligence is already, what do you think the internet is? Your phone sitting next to you is collecting everything you say. It's unbelievable. Moving forward, human-mouse hybrid. You heard that correctly. Human-mouse hybrid. Scientists grow human brain in tiny rodent. Oh my gosh, the things that they're doing is unbelievable. And then they placed them inside the skull of mice where a piece of tissue had been removed to make room for the new organ. Yada, yada, yada. Humans will be genetically modified for the first time in Europe as scientists get the go-ahead to use DNA splicing therapy to treat blood disorder. It's going to be sold as something they do in the pub. Look, they've already been doing this for a long time. Syria just recently accused the United States of using DNA or genetically modified super soldiers in Syria. And it's not the first time we've been accused of that. It's not the first time Syria has accused us of that. And it's not like some offhanded comment. I mean, these comments take place at the UN meetings that are televised and available to watch. I think True News just did a couple podcasts on that. Japan lifts ban on growing human organs in animals. All these headlines just came out this week, friends. And there's this many or more every week. Woolly mammoths could come back to life and save the Arctic. Harvard cloning scientist is using DNA from of course it's not really 42,000 years old, it's ridiculous, from a 42,000-year-old carcass to see the Ice Age species rise from the dead. They're claiming they can bring back the woolly mammoth. Let's see, what's this headline here? CRISPR, which is the science that is used to genetically modify humans. CRISPR-Cas9 to genetically modify humans. Same technology used to create GMO 2.0 food stuff, which most people don't realize this, but almost everything that you consume is genetically modified, giving you all kinds of problems. Sometime I need to bring somebody on the show to talk to you guys about that. But they're now using that technology to genetically modify humans. You know, this is all in the prophecies that this stuff would happen. It's in the extra biblical books as well. I've mentioned many times, 2nd Esdras talks about how women will give birth to monsters. They're going to start, designer babies. All that stuff is here. And the only reason that we bring it up and we talk about it, as strange as it is because it just points to the times that we're living in. Which brings me to my next point. Which brings me to why I think we should look at James chapter 1. Because we're living in a time when we've never been closer to the end. And people are really taking their relationship with the Lord lightly. There's no action to go along with faith, and if you dare say faith requires action, they go hand in hand, people get upset. If you read the scriptures, people get up. Christians will get upset at the scriptures. For example, if I read John, 1 John, the beloved disciple of Jesus, the one who loved the Lord, the one that talks about the most when it comes to loving God. John, this person who just loved the Lord. If you go to chapter 5, what does he say? He tells you how you can know if you really love God. By this this is his words, not mine. By this we know that we love the children of God when we love God and keep his commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. Now, sometimes when I say we're supposed to obey the commandments, I'll hear from people, well, whose commandments? And the reason when they say whose commandments is because the idea is that, well, are you talking about the commandments of Jesus or the commandments of God, as if they're somehow different. But just to be clear, John says the commandments of God, right? For this, the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. In other words, we keep the Lord's commandments as not a way to salvation, but as a way to demonstrate our loyalty and our love for the Lord. And it goes on to say, and his commandments are not even grievous. They're not even, it's our pleasure, our delight to do them. This is how we know that we love God. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Yes, it's all by faith, but true faith is demonstrated through action. James, before I read James 1, let me just read a scripture from James chapter 2. And you've all heard it. It says, what does it profit, my brethren, though a man say he has faith, but he have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, depart in peace, be ye warned, and not filled, notwithstanding give ye them not those things which are needful to the body. What does it profit? In other words, when somebody comes to you and says, man, I don't know how I'm going to put food on the table this week for my family, and you say, well, I'll pray for you. What is that profit? James says, he goes on to say, verse 17, even so, faith, if it have not works, is dead, being alone. In other words, if it's just lip service, it's of no value. What you really should do is, if you see a brother or sister who is naked and desolate of daily food, what do? You help them. Verse 18, yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without works, and I will show you my faith by my works. James is saying, I'll show you that I actually have faith by what I do with my life. Verse 19, thou believest that there is one God? Thou dost well. The devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? I think I've made my point there. Let's go on and take a look at James chapter 2. As quickly as possible here. James, the servant of God, to the Lord Jesus Christ, and to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. So why are we tempted? Why are we always constantly fighting these battles? It's the trying of our faith which worketh patience, James says. Verse 4, but let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If you lack wisdom, let him ask God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. But let him ask in faith, not wavering. For he that wavereth is like the wave of a sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. James is talking about having actual faith. When you ask the Lord for something, to meet a need, for wisdom, you need to have unwavering faith. Because those who are like, I'm not really sure, I don't really believe, I'm not really sure if he's going to do anything or not. James is like, you're double-minded. You're like a wave in the sea, driven by the wind, tossed back and forth. You need to stand firm on your faith. And this is something I've battled even myself. We have to stand firm. We have to understand what we believe and stand on it. And when we come to God with confidence that he's going to hear our prayers. Let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted, but the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass he shall pass away. For the sun is sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withereth the grass, and the flower thereof falleth, and the grace of the fashion of it perish. So also shall the rich man fade away in his ways. Sometimes I look, we can all just look around us, maybe even at work. If, I know that where I work, I'm one of the lowest paid people in my entire office, if not the lowest. And I do more work than some of the people making 5 times the amount of money I make. And sometimes I think, man, this just isn't right. This isn't fair. Why do I have to struggle to pay my bills? Why, and I have, while somebody who does, comes in an hour late, doesn't, does very little work, makes 5 times what I make. Like this, the reality is that the way the world is it's upside down, right? It's on its head. It's not the way it should be. And James is saying, let the brother of low degree rejoice, because he is exalted. In other words, that you're going to be exalted. But the rich, they're like the flowers of the grass. They're going to pass away. For the sun comes out and it's no longer in the sky, and all of its and all the flowers burn up and perish, right? So shall it be with the rich. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive a crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. There's a crown of life given to those who love the Lord. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. So when we're tempted, where does our temptation come from? When you're tempted to sin, when you're tempted to lust, where does that come from? And some people say, well, the devil. What does James say? Verse 14, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. It's our own wickedness that draws us away to our own lust. That's why we're to pray, for the mind of Christ. Take every thought captive of the obedience of Jesus Christ, as Scriptures say. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and in sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will beget us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his own creatures. These last few verses are really what I want to dial in on. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Wherefore lay apart, this is probably my favorite verse of the whole thing, wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity and naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. So many people, they can't find any time throughout the week to study God's word. I don't read my Bible every single day like I would like to, but most days. There is occasional times where life just gets too chaotic and I don't get it done, but most days I'm reading the Scriptures. This is what I mean by diligently pursuing the Lord. How do you diligently pursue God? Well, you do it through prayer, through worship, and through His Word. You can't diligently pursue God if you're not digging through the Word. I mean, right here he says, and receive with meekness the engrafted Word, which is able to save your souls. We're talking about salvation here. We're talking about how important your relationship with God is, because just an intellectual agreement that Jesus Christ existed, just an intellectual agreement that most or part or some of the Bible might be true, the intellectual agreement, well, I believe there is a God, that's not what saves you. What saves you is true faith. James goes on, verse 22, but be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. Did you hear that? Be a doer of the word, not a hearer only. Because if you're a hearer only, you deceive yourself. So many people, they hear the word of God, and then they don't apply it to their lives. They don't obey it. They just show up to church and they just listen. They're deceiving themselves. How many people call themselves Christians, but they're deceived? They're deceiving them. And the deception is they are deceiving their own selves, thinking that they're God's children, thinking they have a relationship with God when they don't. Because they're hearers only. They're not a doer. They're not pursuing the things of God. Verse 23, for if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is likened to a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth the manner of man he was. This is what James is saying. Somebody who just listens to you read the word, or you just hear somebody preaching the word, and you go, oh, okay. And then you turn right around and go back into the world and totally forget what the word said. You just do your own thing, live your own way. You're not doing the word. It's the same as if you were to look in a mirror, and you look at yourself, and then as soon as you turn away from the mirror, you forgot what you look like. That's what he's saying. That's how ridiculous it is to hear the word and then not do it. Verse 25, but whosoever looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not forgetful forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridle not his tongue, he deceiveth his own heart. This man's religion is in vain. In other words, if you say, I'm a Christian, but you can't keep your mouth shut, you're deceiving yourself. Your religion is in vain. And then James in the last verse tells us here in verse 27 what pure religion looks like. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. That's pure religion. It's to care about those in need, like the fatherless and like the widows. And it's to keep yourself from being tainted, from being spotted by the sins and the wickedness and the ways of this world. But we live in an age where Christians say, I got to be relevant to the world. Pastors say, we got to be relevant. We got to make it so that people, anybody and everybody feels comfortable sitting here. No. We're to be a salt and a light to this world. We're to be different. We're to be set apart. I don't know if my message got across today. I just think that we just take our faith so lightly. And we don't diligently seek the Lord. Even though the scriptures say that he is a rewarder to those who diligently seek him. And we just read Exodus chapter 15 earlier this week. And in verse 26 it says, And he said, If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all of his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. And I think about the fact that we are moving into the last day, and great judgment is coming upon the earth. And I don't know about you, but I want God to look down upon me and upon my household and say, this person is diligently seeking me, diligently hearkening to my voice. So they're going to be spared of all these plagues that I'm bringing upon the world. It's about faith, and then it's about action. And I feel like so many of us lack one or the other, if not both. Real faith, the kind of faith that saves, which then automatically leads to the action. It automatically leads to you doing something. And I can't tell you what your something is, but it's the way your attitude is towards those in need. It's the way your attitude is towards God. And it has to do with whether or not you embrace the wickedness of the world or not. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. If you go to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, But without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is the rewarder of them that diligently seek him. I don't have much more to add to that, other than to say we're living in some strange times. We've got all this genetic modification happening, all this talk of war happening. Just the destruction of civilization is happening before our very eyes. And you need to be taking your relationship with God very, very seriously. And the good news is that if thou wilt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus Christ, and believe in thy heart that God raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. If you really, really believe, you'll be saved, and your belief will lead to action, not the other way. You don't do action to get saved. Your salvation is what causes you to take action. And James is saying, look, you can see that I truly believe, because just look at my life. Look what I really do. And you know, I think I'm just going to leave it there. And I just pray that the message got across to whoever it's for in the powerful name of Jesus. Diligently seek the Lord. Set aside some time. You know, I have to get up extra early to do the podcast. I have to set aside that time. It means being more tired. It means as soon as I stop this recording, I'm going to be rushed trying to get ready for work. This is just the way it is when you want to do the things for the kingdom of God. You find the time, you make the time. Sometimes something's got to give. But I would say most of us have something in this world that's taking up our time and keeping us from diligently pursuing the Lord in the most crucial time in your life to be drawing near to Him. Because I'm telling you, one of these days, one of these mornings, we're going to wake up and the world's going to be even more different than it is. An overnight, sudden, what just happened? And you need to know the Lord, and you need to be in an intimate relationship with Him. So that's my words for you this morning. Diligently seek the Lord. And the good news is He is a rewarder of those who do. Peace and grace be with all of you, and until next time. God bless.